Here we go.
Pick in the 2023 NFL Draft, the Indianapolis Colts select Anthony Richardson, quarterback.
Good on them.
This is awesome.
This is exactly where I wanted
This is
to go.
awesome.
Good on them.
We've talked about this all week. in the
Yeah.
potential quarter. It might have been weird just doing the fake show last night. We were talking about
all
this, so
working
let's rehash it
together.
here. The idea of Anthony Richardson landing in Indianapolis was so exciting to me because in so many other circumstances, you would have to have a lot of imagination to think about what he could be. Like, how are they going to tweak the scheme around him? Do they have the right coaching staff to be flexible enough and nimble enough to build an offense for him? We have to ask none of those questions about Shane Steichen. The flexibility he showed in constructing the right offense around Jalen Hurts and making Jalen Hurts a lot of money over the last year, those are the exact same ideas that you can graft onto an even better athlete in Anthony Richardson.
We talk all the time about Chris Ballard and what is he like. And I mean, the freakiest quarterback we've seen come along with his size, speed, arm combination. And this is, I mean, who's starting week one? Gardner Minshew, I guess, maybe?
I think he's out there, man.
You think so? From day one?
I think so. I mean, this team specifically, I thought was in a spot where if they pick the right guy, you just throw him out there and see what happens. And Nate, you've said multiple times during this process that you thought Anthony Richardson was less of a project than some people were making him out to be. What aspects to his game leads you to say that?
Yeah, yes, there are things he has to work on, but there are mental side to him, and as far as progression and that pre-snap stuff that I talked about with Bryce Young, he was asked to handle protections, just like we talked about with Bryce Young. To the extent where Bryce Young was doing it every single play, no, but he was doing it certain games. He was asked to do a lot. And again, he got better as the season went along. Play that he would throw an interception on early in the year, they would run it again later in the year, and he's moving the DBs with his eyes. So you already saw the growth there. And as far as like progressing through a play, he was finding checkdowns and doing it all promptly. There's no guesswork here. And I think that's just what's so cool with him was that, yes, he's a freak. He's a true unicorn as an athlete, but those quarterback things, the pre-snap and post-snap stuff, there's more polish there. He's always trying to do the right thing, and you could see him speed up mentally every single week. And again, this is another guy that's coming out as a redshirt sophomore. He's 20 right now.
He's 20 years old.
He can't even have a celebratory drink.
No, he can't. Not for another month.
Yeah, for another month after he gets drafted right here. I don't know if he drinks.
He might make it happen.
Yeah, but we'll see. But also just going to the offense, and it was Steichen with his background. We know the Jalen Hurts stuff and what they did there and kind of making them like a college-y type offense with a lot of vertical elements. His background was with Norv Turner, which is why I bring that up is the heavy play action stuff is what Anthony Richardson ran a ton at Florida. A lot of play action, a lot of down the field stuff. So it's like, well, there's a dozen plays right there. I can tell you that they're going to run every week. And then on top of all the creation, the designed runs that you can do with him, I just think the package of him is it's exceptional. Like like he has that top 3 quarterback upside, but I think this is a situation that's like, wow, again, we're talking about paths. This is a great path for him.
No, there's no doubt. And again, I'll go back to it. As much as we talk about the ceiling and the upside, and I agree with that, I am more encouraged by the floor.
Yeah.
When you have a guy that is this big, that fast, with that type of arm, that really helps.
The rushing buys you time. We talk about this all the time. The rushing buys you so much time. It did it for Jalen Hurts.
Right.
It did it for so many of these guys where it can buy you time. And
beyond the floor.
Beyond the schematic similarities with Jalen Hurts and kind of the schematic overlap that we can potentially see, I think that a lot of the things the Eagles did with sports science and throwing aspects and mechanics and the ways that Jalen Hurts got to work on that within the building and some of the stuff that Philly believed in, I have to imagine some of that is going to rub off on Shane Steichen because that's the aspect of Anthony Richardson's game that we think is the furthest away, right? It's actual mechanical aspects to throwing the football and playing the position, stuff that I think we have examples of getting fixed over time. So if he can fix some of that and you have the tools and the feel that he seems to, it's truly unlimited what he can be as a quarterback in the NFL.
The feel and the pocket movement, not because he's just such a good athlete, but he truly has that. His eyes never come down. And that's a warning sign. When you see a quarterback's eyes always come down, that's like, okay, they're looking at the pass rush. Yes, you kind of are looking out of the corner of your eye, but you have to feel the pass rush. He already shows that he can do that. But week in, week out. So that's a good box to check. And even the accuracy stuff, because everything was so down the field. Sometimes because he's such a good athlete and so bouncy, his feet would get out of whack. Like he would just kind of his feet are in the air as he's throwing the ball. It's like, okay, let's not do that. Let's get you planted. Let's get you a little more firmly balanced here. But again, we're going with a guy that has shown that he can help improve a quarterback's play. So again, this is a situation. It's not It's not where I'm just like being optimistic and going like, oh, hopefully everything's going to work out for him. It's like, no, this is going to actually work here. This guy gets it. This guy's worked. Steichen's worked with Philip Rivers. Yeah. He's worked with Justin Herbert, another guy that had a big arm and quote unquote
accuracy issues. Yeah, it's a great point.
Fix that in a big arm and honed it in and harnessed it. So just because of his background and different offenses that he's shown out there, it's like he's going to make something work with Richardson to get him going.
We haven't even talked about this. Just imagine zone read with Jonathan Taylor and Anthony Richardson coming downhill at you.
Right.
That is going to be something to behold.
Spray footballs if all of your receivers are 6'5" and 6'4". Like he's got receivers that work perfectly for him. Like,
Alec Pierce, volleyball player, is exactly what you need right now with Anthony Richardson.
This is why I'm really happy. All the Alec Pierce stock I have. Great.
Michael Pittman high pointing out there as well. I mean,
the big tight ends.
Right. Oh, yeah. And with Anthony Richardson, I mean, this is a situation where I'm a big believer in you don't predetermine playing time. Yeah. That's what training camp's for.
Exactly.
But when you draft a quarterback like Anthony Richardson, you have to talk about timeline.
Yep.
When do we think he's going to be able to get on the field and understand the playbook and all that? Because that's key with Richardson, because we've talked about it before. He needs to get on the field.
Yep.
You want him getting those first team reps, getting that consistency down. Yes. That's so big for him. And he's going to a team that there's not much standing in his way.
Nope.
So if he shows during training camp that he grasped the playbook and he gets it, I agree. We could see him very early in September.
We've talked about how much optimism there is around Shane Steichen and the new coaching staff because it's new. We just saw how much work Shane Steichen did and how much he succeeded in Philadelphia. The tone around the front office is a little bit different.
Yeah.
I mean, it has been a rough year or so in Indianapolis, and this is the shot that Chris Ballard had to take. We were always wondering, all right, when is he going to pull the trigger? When are they actually going to make a big move for one of these quarterbacks? And now the hourglass turns over. Like, this is your big move at the position. And even if it's a new coaching regime, I still feel like there's a lot of urgency with the front office and how this could potentially work out.
And there's still some question marks.
Oh,
yeah. They didn't do anything to address the offensive line.
I was just going to say.
No, I mean,
we just have it in our head. Oh, yeah, that's a strength. And it's like, well, last year that was a little rough.
You look at their additions, there's a couple of nice defensive players. Isaiah McKenzie's, work them into the
That is
mix.
the move. That is the move they made on offense was Isaiah McKenzie.
So not only is this pick important, but what they do the rest of this draft.
Yes.
And it's important to point out, Colts didn't have to move. They didn't have to give up an extra draft capital to go up and get their guy. They stuck at number 4, got their guy, and now it's time to keep building talent around him to give him the best chance to succeed. So this is where Chris Ballard goes from here will be really interesting. I give Chris credit for taking, even though there were question marks about how long before we see Anthony Richardson, the version we think is going to help win divisions. Mm-hmm. How long before we see that guy? Chris, no matter what, if it's hot seat, warm seat, whatever, he stuck to his guns and took who he thought was the best quarterback.
No, it's great. How about the AFC South now? Like just the quarterback upgrade that division's gotten overnight. But that's the thing with Richardson, and this is where I keep going back and forth with, because I've been around experience where Dante Culpepper sat for a year. Mm-hmm. Carson Palmer sat for a year.
Mahomes.
Different types of Mahomes sat for a year. But also I have heard from quarterbacks also. This might be a little bit of a survivor bias, where the quarterbacks where it worked out go, I needed those live reps. I needed those bullets flying around me. But I do think with Richardson, he is the guy where it's like, okay, I think he is always trying to do the right thing. So as long as we don't overwhelm him with a huge playbook, I do think he'll be able to handle it down the road. But I do think he just needs those plays just to figure it out. And I think having a vets around him, having guys that been through those live reps, that's what's going to help him the most, that he can just go, what'd you do there? I think that's what he needs the most.
Here to talk us through the Colts pick and the big swing from that front office, it is our Colts writer at The Athletic, Zak Keefer. Zach, thank you very much for joining us, sir. You look fantastic.
The Wizard of
there.
Oz.
What's up, guys? How's your night going?
We are having a great time. How's your night going?
Hey, they took a quarterback, man. It feels like 7 years in the making.
Why do you think Anthony Richardson ultimately became the guy for Indianapolis?
I think if you look at the 3 pillars at the top, it makes a lot of sense, right? Jim Irsay wants a running quarterback. First of all, he wanted them to draft a quarterback. When all the Lamar Jackson conversations, I kept going back to Irsay wants a rookie quarterback. So start there. You pivot to Chris Ballard. He likes traits, right? Robert, we've talked about this a lot. He
sure
loves
does.
traits. Does anybody have more traits than Anthony Richardson? And then thirdly, this is a bet on Shane Steichen. And I've said this as well. Like, you're betting on this guy's ability to draft a young quarterback who's a little bit raw, but has everything you want physically. Steichen, Ballard, Irsay, it feels like it makes a lot of sense. And then the final box for them to check was the personality. It was the character. And they visited with him a lot in Gainesville the last couple of weeks. And it just felt like they felt really comfortable with him.
Have they talked about, again, the process a little bit? Have you gotten to hear from Ballard at all? Gotten to hear from anybody there after they made the pick?
Yeah. He decided in his mind about a month ago that he was good with this pick. And the biggest amount of anticipation and angst was waiting to see who was trading up to 3, right? And he said someone might be lying in the weeds. And if it was Tennessee, that would have been a bad look if they would have jumped up to get Anthony Richardson. When they didn't, the Colts knew this was the guy. And I heard it wasn't going to be Levis. And they were pretty sure it was Anthony Richardson.
We talked a lot about, Chris has been open about this. I mean, when you draft one of these guys, it's on you. This is the moment when it really kind of turns over, and they had sorted through all of these veteran quarterbacks. Is that sense there now that this is it? This is our big bet at the position, and however it turns out, this is how it turns out.
Yeah, but don't you think this gives them a little bit more time?
I absolutely think it gives a little bit more time, but it still feels
he's
like
20 years old.
it still feels like we were waiting for them to make their big bet, and this is it. And to do it on a guy who has this package of traits and clearly, like you said, fits personality-wise the way that they want to, then to be the next kind of guy in this lineage of Colts quarterbacks just feels different for this franchise in a way. And for it to be a guy like Anthony Richardson, it's pretty fascinating.
Yeah, it needed to happen. And I asked Chris Ballard at the end of our conversation, like, do you feel relief? Like you finally pulled the trigger on this quarterback? And really, this is what the fan base has been waiting for since August of 19, when Andrew Luck walked away, and they finally did it. But again, Jim Irsay is going to exercise patience here. I really believe that. And remember, Shane Steichen's on a 6-year contract. So there's no real hurry to play him a lot this year. But then again, as you've mentioned, Dane, like this guy needs to play. He needs reps. He's only started 13 games in college. So that's going to be the interesting dynamic. But if you think about this guy and Jonathan Taylor in the same backfield, that could be fun.
That's fun.
It's fun.
Zak Keefer, enjoy your night, my friend. Thank you very much for joining us. We'll talk to you soon.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks, Zach.